Hello, I'm Veronica Entwistle, and you've tuned in to Paradigm Shifters, talking to people who are making a difference in our consciousness on the planet at this time.
Hi, I'm Lori, Veronica's assistant.
Wonderful, Lori. And what I'd like to explain is that I'm bringing in a coalescence of consciousnesses who are very loving, who love you and love me and want to help us understand how to become more evolved and be less in the grappling tentacles of life on this planet. So I'll take a minute and see if I can bring them in with ease. Usually they're dying to talk to us, so I'll be a minute here.
Okay, Miricris. Recently, Congress had this amazing hearing. It was just about 5 days ago. And it was pretty profound because they were very openly talking with whistleblowers who work for NASA and the Pentagon on sightings of UFOs and trying to release more of this information to the public. Can you tell us a little bit about the energy behind the people holding this congressional hearing, the purpose?
Well, you mentioned that they were coming in, but there is much greater, the very terrifying thing for people in power, for example, in the US, is that there's a move from from space, if you will, from these consciousness beings. And not everyone in space is conscious, we want to say that, except that these consciousness beings are wanting to bring forward an influence of many higher commodities in terms of human consciousness. And so as we go through the Congress's interviews with people, that doesn't come up very often, except when they're speaking of things like, for example, the fact that people who were in a situation where they were right close to one of these and they felt that the people who were piloting whatever the ship was could just read their minds. And we want to remind people that that isn't always scary. It can be, if you've got nefarious things in your mind, it can be very frightening, except that we want to encourage people to realize that you're all going to learn that art of reading what people are thinking. And it's not just to be intrusive, it's because you don't have to have the more, what we would call it, the clumsy ways of finding out what's going on. And you don't have to find as much of the slanted rhetoric that humans use to empower their own speech. You just know what's going on. So if someone is saying you're an abysmal person, you know that. You don't have to go through the art of discovering someone's abysmal and is a crook and so on. You understand? But we're encouraging, and many of the ETs are encouraging humans to develop gifts of consciousness in order to be able to change what's going on your planet.
Okay, and the people, it was pretty profound watching these pretty straight-laced congressional people asking these very detailed questions about the information that they had. And it was one congresswoman talked about, she calls them biologics in her reference to ETs and UFOs. And it was amazing because she was talking about minds of pilots who've seen spaceships, how they felt their minds were being read. Now, my question is will these, can Miricris get a sense of when we might get some really big visitations? I know they're here often. And I'm also,
perhaps it'll be within well, we would say it's supposed to be coming in 2 years, but there is some question about whether or not we're ready. Do you understand why? That the ETs don't want to come to a warring planet. You see, they've made a strong statement years ago. They're not coming while we are warring here in Mother Earth. And so there's a couple of stretch. Perhaps it'll be 2026 or 2028. And it will become an acceptable event to have extraterrestrials coming here to set up their own businesses, or to set up, you understand, to do a purveyor of what the scenario is. But right now they would get killed, would they not?
Yes, and that was one of my concerns. Was this hearing, the intention of it pure, or was it nefarious?
No, it was pure. Well, there's always a little nefarious, but the pure part is people just want to know. They don't want to be, many are afraid because it's been built up that way. And people just want to know. And that if you were off going to another planet, you wouldn't suddenly become a very dangerous person, would you? Although changing, as we say that, changing the thought process in people is actually in its own way dangerous, but that's a whole other discussion. But it is a very, very important Congress, very important.
Are there, sorry, Miricris, I mean, are there warring ETs amongst themselves?
Yes, but not as many. Many of them, for example, who's it, Bashar? There are several beings that speak to you now through your media who have come from, or past life came from, warring areas, and they've left there in order to live in ships for a while, and they've left there when their own planets are destroyed, and they want to come and settle places where they can be in peace and help the climate of a I would say country, but it's mostly like a whole planet, to live in peace. So they fly around for a long time, maybe decades, you understand? And they want to come to settle in a new place and help people. See, most of the ones that come here will have enough consciousness to educate people, to open to, for example, perceiving what one another's thoughts are, for healing, for all kinds of situations, buildings without difficulties and financial solutions and so on. But there has to be the release of war. And ones who come from warring planets won't come here because, well, perhaps that's not true, but it appears that the ones who come from warring planets will not come to Earth. Earth is very frightening to many people in the intergalactic regions.
Absolutely. I mean, Miricris, do you see a time? You said coming to set up businesses. I mean, we're going to actually be interacting.
Yes, you will. But you'll notice that they will be in disguise. Some of them will be in disguise.
What, human form?
Yes, they'll come in and they'll look almost normal. But one of the gauges that you can use is the way their eyes work. Always watch people's eyes anyway, but see how their eyes work. There will be a very kind of, it'll be quite different. The way their light comes through their eyes is going to be not opaque, but it is hard to describe it. It feels and sees as if it's more metallic, meaning it's part of a machine. But they aren't all like that. It's just that they have a different biochemical structure than people here do. But there will be lots of intermarriage and so on. So that's not like, it's a way of creating a whole new species, isn't it?
But we're not going to be interacting with them in their form, for instance. No, it's too much, right? It's too much.
When you say that, it's very interesting because we say eventually, yes, because eventually it is a no thing. You know, their form is not despicable to our form. It's just that it's different. And people who are human and on this fear-based planet, they're afraid of different. You understand that?
Mhm, mhm.
But when you get to know the hearts, some of these beings have evolved from terrible trauma, pain, wars, isolation, dissolution of their own home environment, and have, as consequence in their psyche, a true drive and understanding of how difficult it is for any beings of life, and really care to be a participant. You'll find that many of the ETs that you meet are big, big hearted.
Wow, it's beautiful. If we can jump now to something more on planet Earth.
We're good at jumping.
Yeah. Planet Earth. I wanted to talk about Stephen Spoonamore, a fascinating letter, Duty to Warn, that he sent to Kamala Harris and many other election officials and many other politicians about details of how different scenarios of how the election was hacked. And he's calling for a hand recount to prove him wrong. I'd like to hear a little bit about how you perceive his work, and if it's on target with these bullet ballots.
Very much so. And he has a great deal of information. He's got a great deal of backup proof and identification, being able to re-identify some of these things. He's quite a, he's been very, very diligent about this and cares a lot. He's got a big heart. He's a bit despondent at this point because the amount of time they're taking to use his information and really help make changes on this planet and turn around this election is delayed a lot. But we find here we are delighted, and we do try to nudge some people. There are a number of people in position that are taking not only his information, but there are other technical wizards who are sending theirs in as well. And they're taking those and trying to combine forces so that they can really make a difference. It's gone over the deadline for recounts, but we see here that it's not too late, because the truth of it is the Earth people need to have the courage to push through. No matter what the Constitution says, people are ignoring it, and you know this. And that there is a nerve coming up that is demanding that we push through this and overturn parts of this election. And we see also that Mr. Trump may not make it through this period of time. He can almost not bear, he cannot bear the loss of this. Do you understand? It's tearing him apart.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
He's not a strong man.
So are you suggesting that he won't make it to the inauguration?
Exactly.
Okay.
We see here that his inner is breaking down in a way. His inner body is breaking down. Excuse me. And he, the pressure of this recount and the demands for the recount is too much. And he can barely stand it, because he knows that he has to go to prison for starters if he doesn't get in. And it's also, on another level, it's just making him sicker and sicker. You know, he's not a well man anyway.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So,
the thing that keeps him strong is being a bully.
so it's his health. It's not some third party situation.
It doesn't appear so. We want to tease and say it's a little too obvious, isn't it? However, no, he's breaking down. So if there's an assassination attempt, we see there's about 40 of them in the wings right now anyway, as you probably realize. But assassination attempt would definitely become greater than an attempt.
Right.
But we're saying he's already doing it himself in a way. Do you understand that?
Yes. And I'm going to throw a disclaimer in here. This
Okay.
this session is for entertainment purposes only. I mean, you can't make this shit up. So,
And we are enjoying it too, in a way, because the enjoyment comes at our whole position in this existence is to move the consciousness of beings. And as we watch, there are many people whose consciousness is rising through the terrible pressures they're under, but they're also doing inner listening and lots of praying. And many people, not all of them, but many people want the greater good, and they want the evolution of the species on this planet. Many people, if you took a survey, would say they know that the ETs need us to grow up. We've heard for a long time that they're not coming here until you get over war. You know, and that seems to be quite an edict for some people's minds.
Right. And it's a little confusing on the recount, because my understanding is there's a couple of states that will pass as of today that will no longer be eligible for recount. Who knows what the courts can do, but there's other states where it could happen. So, and my question is does the Democratic Party even have the money to do the recount? Because they have been trying to raise money on their Vote Blue site.
It appears that as it comes to the edge or the final statement, there is a flush of money that comes through. You see, what this money thing is with the recount is a lot about who gives a toot, who cares about it, and who really, really cares about it. You see? So there's this, everything is polarity in the middle of this time, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And we are saying, it appears that this is a Thursday. It appears that before a week is up, you'll have it'll have turned itself around. And we understand that the limits have already been met, but mark my words, there are some pretty, by the way, that there's so many nefarious beings you can't even recognize from the surface. There are some very amazing revolutionary thinkers who have the highest regard for America's potential. And they're going to keep working on this. And over the next, we'd say even 4 days, you're going to see a huge change in the tolerance for this particular election.
Wow, that's a change. That's a shift.
If you have enough voices, and you see that there are several which are called red states. There are several red states in which the blocking and forbidding of anything is very strong, you see. And we're saying, so there's another grappling, a lot of like fighting who wants justice and who just wants to be in, who wants power. Matt Gaetz's retirement is helpful.
Yeah, today was a real twofer between Netanyahu with the arrest warrant from The Hague, and now Matt Gaetz, who...
Well, Matt Gaetz's retirement is actually helping your country in a big way. It's that people are going, oh my God, I better get my own act together, or we better not do it this way, because... So there's a whole bunch of shuffling and changing going on.
Yes. And I feel like the voices in the social media, amongst YouTube and other Blue Sky and other outlets, are actually forming their own entire valid news outlet. This is not a conspiracy. This is something that's exciting and revolutionary that's occurring, I feel.
The word that you used, revolutionary, is a good word, because the people who will still fuss and fight no matter what the rules are and really try to make the difference are revolutionary.
Exactly. And I have a question about Netanyahu. This is really amazing news that the 123 countries have come together with the International Criminal Court and issued this arrest warrant. This
Wonderful.
now will limit his ability to move. The exceptions to that, United States, India, um, Israel, and there's two others. My question is now that this is going to limit his movement, is there a possibility he will get arrested eventually?
Yes, and also we were speaking of Mr. Trump and the possibility of assassination, but it appears that Netanyahu will be assassinated.
Yeah, we know his home was targeted previously. And
well, they're not finished yet. He is a very hated dictator, very.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. He's sort of
and
like,
actually, he looks very, very difficult inside. We're speaking of consciousness. His is as if it's shut down and it's very cold and brittle and knowing someone won't budge an inch no matter what. He's got a dream and an ideal, but it's not. Dreams are kind of unfolding, aren't they? His isn't. It's just a very high speed tractor with a big some kind of a cutting force in front of it. He just wants to do what he wants to do.
right. Now, will this force a ceasefire, do you think? Is there a ceasefire coming with Gaza, not just Lebanon, but also?
Yes, 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 but not quite yet. There's some manipulation of there's some manipulation of we want to say of rages, various rages. So there's some people that want no ceasefire and some people that want it. See, everything is polarized on this country, in this country, and also on this planet right now, and you know that. But apparently, it will. The ceasefire could possibly come up within a week or two. They say possibly because there are many working against it, which is something that startles many people. Who would work against it?
Power, ego,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
An investment,
retribution,
investment,
retribution, anger, hurt, karmic hurt, you know.
Exactly. We keep speaking through this one about the soul's journey. You know, long time ago, some very ugly things happened, and people are still carrying the memory.
Yeah, absolutely. And lastly, we're kind of winding down here, but for the moment, because this is so interesting, just so exciting to hear all this news. 4B movement in the United States, coming from South Korea.
This is our favorite topic at this point, because what it is a wave. It's the beginning of another. Do you remember a long time ago, there was the feminist women's movement? This is a wave that is going to take over the whole world, meaning it will penetrate every. Women are very good about this. They can nurture their way into the opposition, you know, and this is going to be a wave that goes throughout the whole world and will change. We cannot guarantee this. However, it will change human consciousness, which is our favorite topic. It'll change human consciousness all around. And we say it's going to be very successful.
Wow. So this could be the beginning of, how long do you think it'll take till the patriarchy, the structure of the patriarchy is actually?
Probably a couple of years, or maybe longer. But the thing about it, you want to know this, is that the patriarchy will kind of morph into a much different way of being, rather than it being just an attack and winning kind of thing. Women are just not allowing that suppression anymore.
Mm-hmm. And how will the depopulation affect our planet, our climate change, our, you know, I mean, it's a big impact to say it goes global. I mean, that's a huge shift. because the movement is actually advocating not to have children, to stay in their jobs, to run their own lives, and not to relate to men. This was the movement in South Korea.
We're not seeing that all over the world. It's going to be quite that restrictive. However, you will see women, let me see, we'll see that they will not seem like the Korean women. They will not be quite as strict about being, some will still be with men, so on and so forth. But it's that they don't allow the male power to dominate anymore. And that's going to spread all over the world. We see it in Russia. We see it in, it'll be all over. The Russian people will, for example, refuse suppression, which is crucial, right? It's not just the same movement, but it's the same movement, you see. And it's going all around the world like that, but it has different flavors everywhere. It's just women rising up.
And what happens with women in Iran and Afghanistan?
Exactly. Iran is one of the most interesting.
Oppressed. Yeah.
But it's very, very interesting because it talked about soul paths, and the women in Iran have come from a very, very successful feminine exploration and expression, and then got damped down, as you know. And so they are writhing under there. So they're going to, they're going to move, just a minute, please. They're going to move collectively and develop underground connections for one another. And it's really going to be quite magical. But remind yourself that when it's in the soul's journey to have experienced that expression, for example, the feminine freedom and the exploration of all the creativity and so on, but got daunted, it's still in there. And they're not afraid when it gets to this situation, and there are women all over the world that are doing this, they're not afraid to stand up and even get killed, some of them, for breaking out of this suppression. It's going to be quite interesting. Iran will be very interesting.
And what about the new morality law that came in Afghanistan, where women are not even allowed in parks? They cannot sing, they cannot laugh.
Well, we're saying the same thing again. This will take a little longer.
Yes,
but you know enough about women to know that the underground is percolating like mad. Do you see what I mean? And they will not march, not link arms and walk down the street, but the consciousness of independence, the consciousness of self-awareness, the consciousness of, for example, nurturing and all that, and creativity. There's some amazing creative women in that area. That consciousness will keep rising and keep connecting the women. And some men, actually, but they keep connecting the women. But we say it's slower there, as you know why. They have to be ready to defy the possibility of being murdered, you see. But the greatest thing we can all do, we include ourselves for this, because there are many higher guides around your planet, and praying. When you think of them, think of how your thoughts can be read by ETs and so on. And we say, think of them and send them light and love and understanding, because deep down you understand the fight in suppression. Send that nurturing understanding in your mind, because it will help them a lot. Not just them, but anywhere you see North Korea, any of the ones that you see are very, very suppressed. It's beautiful. In fact, what we would like to say is the more you can send that kind of thinking around the world, the better it will be for everyone. Because that means whoever the individuals are sending out that kind of consciousness, they're going to get more and more, they're going to grow. And so there will be a rising tide of different consciousnesses. And that's when you will find more and more ETs landing on your planet and becoming a part of it. You see the combination, you see how everything moves in waves and so on. It's going to be hard in Korea.
North Korea?
Yeah. Both. It's 4B is in the South Korea, right?
Mhm.
Because it's going to be hard there because they're groundbreaking right now. We know it's old ground, but several people have mentioned an old play called Lysistrata. Have you seen that? And that's when the Greek, it's an old Greek play. And it's when the women in Greece would give no sex to men until they stopped the war. It's an old play, but it's really worth looking it up.
That's beautiful.
And the reason for that is not to reiterate that, but is to revitalize in us the value that women are. You see, that's what you want to do. That's the greatest battle that you can fight. Consciousness.
Well, Miricris, thank you so much. This is, wow, a lot to take in. I'm
And
processing.
thank you for the opportunity. We feel very much a part of your society. We feel the restlessness. We feel the amazing potential for all of you who are working on yourselves and reaching for the higher consciousness, and many blessings. We send our love.